Welcome to Reverse Mortgage and Beyond, the podcast where we take you inside the world of reverse mortgages. I'm Cheryl Scheidell, and I have been in the mortgage industry since 2002 and have specialized in reverse mortgages for the past 10 years. We'll cover topics like reverse mortgage basics, purchasing a home, and the myths about reverse. You'll also hear from some trusted referral partners. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Reverse Mortgage and Beyond, the podcast where we take you beyond the mortgage and into other areas of our lives to focus on so we're not with our hair on fire, right? So I want to be proactive with everyone here today. I'm your host, Cheryl Scheidell, and I'm with Barrett Financial Group. And today I have a special guest in here. Stephanie Bivens and I have known each other, gosh, I feel, well, prior to COVID. So
long time.
Yeah, like at least 8 years. So anyway, I've invited Stephanie Bivens in here, a certified elder law attorney through the National Elder Law Foundation. And she focuses on helping families plan for aging, long-term care, and asset protection. And she sees firsthand what happens when plans are in place and when they're not. So like we said, we want to be proactive and not have our hair on fire. So Stephanie, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me, Cheryl.
Yes, good. So Stephanie, many people believe that once they have a will, we're just going to dive right in here. Yeah. Once they have a will, they feel like they're finished with their estate planning. From your perspective, what does a solid estate plan actually include beyond just a will? So like I've been told wills are like the instructions for the attorney. So, but explain to us what we need more.
Yeah. So when you hear the term estate plan, it's really a number of separate legal documents that each serves a different purpose, and together it makes the entire plan.
Okay.
So you'll have medical directives. Usually that's a healthcare power of attorney, mental health power of attorney, living will, and even a HIPAA release.
Okay.
So that if you are ever unable to make and communicate your own medical decisions, there's a clear chain of command.
Will a DNR be in that?
Charge. A DNR would be in there as well.
Okay, perfect.
Exactly. Okay. Durable financial power of attorney. So if you're ill, I always say if you're incapacitated, meaning if you're still with us, but you're not with it
right
for any period of time, then, somebody like and trust, you gave them the authority to handle financial matters for you until you're back on your feet and able to take over again. A will deals with post-death affairs.
Okay.
So if you pass away, how do you want your estate distributed and who's going to be responsible for managing the estate? And then there's trusts. And so a lot of people, particularly people who own real estate, a trust is going to be advantageous because we get to avoid probate. So it's a whole series of documents that goes way beyond just a last will and testament.
Yes. And you know what? Well, two things on that. I told my mom years ago, I'm like, hey, if I'm not here, but I'm here, but I'm not here.
Right.
After 30 days, I'm having too much fun, so let me go. And she's like, okay, put that in writing. So She was saying that, put that in writing, right?
That would be a living will.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. And the other thing, we focus towards seniors here, but I also have been learning that anyone who turns 18 should have a will,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, these documents are not for old people or ill people.
Right.
If you are 18 and over, you should have a set of documents. I actually have a set for college-age students.
Okay.
So when my daughter turned 18, she was getting ready to go off to college. It's like, I need power of attorney for her because if she's in a car accident, how am I going to help settle the auto claim with her?
Yeah.
How am I going to talk to the doctors at the hospital, right? And as a parent, I don't want to be shut out.
I know, I'm getting the chills
from
thinking
that
about
information.
it. Yes.
So it's not just for older persons, it's for all adults.
Right. So that's important. Everybody pay attention to that.
Yes.
Okay. So I love that you said coordination because I often meet people who have documents, but they don't work together, right?
Yeah.
Or they're coming in from other states. So we have different rules here in Arizona. And when that happens, families can be left with conflict, of course, right? So the question is, at what point in life should someone create, we've kind of talked about this already, their estate plan? Is there something people should revisit regularly, like have it updated every couple of years? Because people get married, people pass, all the stuff, right?
It's a great question, Cheryl. And I get asked this all the time. We'll sit down with clients. They'll have their whole big binder, all their documents. It's perfect today, right?
Yep. Snapshot.
Meets all their goals, objectives, covers their assets, their wishes today. 5 years down the road, assets may change, tax code may change, financial situation, personal dynamics. So anytime there's been a major change, marriages, divorces, births in families, deaths in families, you move to a new state, those are really good situations where you should just trigger, I should have my estate planning attorney take a look and make sure this is conflict in family. Exactly. But even absent that, just general rule of thumb, I usually recommend every 3 to 5 years. It's a really good just time. Pull it out, take a look, call your estate planning attorney, get a quick review. One of the things that just happened with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that went into effect last year, this year, our estate tax limit is now, quote, permanent.
Okay.
And so it's sitting at $15 million per person is now our federal unified gift and estate tax exemption, not to get too techie here.
Okay.
But what that means is if you did your estate planning 5, 10, 15 years ago, you probably have a more complicated tax plan than you need now.
Oh, wow.
So that's an example of how tax laws can change, even if your family dynamics doesn't. So,
and that's to the positive, right?
It's to the positive. Yes,
that's what I'm hearing.
To the positive.
Yes.
But it's just one more example of why you routinely want to have your documents reviewed.
Well, and then I hear stories about how people will move here from other states and they think they're all set.
Yeah.
And then somebody starts having dementia and, because we have we'll get into all the different powers of attorney. But if you're coming from another state and coming to Arizona, then you need to talk to someone like Stephanie to have them review that because it might have been done 20 years ago and we need to make sure everything's in order. Do you have any examples of something like that?
Oh my gosh, I have a million of them. Yeah.
Wow.
So some states like what I'll call short form powers of attorney, where it literally says my agent can engage in real estate transactions. Well, as a mortgage lender, your mortgage company doesn't like that. We like all the words in Arizona. If you come from another state that doesn't have, it will not have Arizona's mental health power of attorney language.
Right.
So if somebody needs inpatient psychiatric hospital level treatment without a mental health power of attorney consistent with Arizona law, we're probably going to have to go to court. And now we're spending, lots of money to do something that simply could have been done with an Arizona mental health power of attorney. So even though the documents are valid, it's not like when you move across state lines, all of your estate planning documents become legally invalid. They are still valid. The issue becomes, are they going to work optimally? Because every state has, particular things our banks, title companies like to see, our doctors, medical providers are used to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's always recommended if you move to a new state, get an attorney in the new state to review your existing documents. They may be okay, but they may need some upgrading.
And it is interesting that Arizona has mental and some states don't.
Yeah, we were one of the first to implement a mental health power of attorney.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so this is where I often see overlap with housing decisions. So we talked about that a little bit. When someone is considering downsizing, aging in place, or even using a reverse mortgage strategically, I've got to get reverse mortgages in here. It's critical that their estate plans reflect those choices. So what are the most common estate planning mistakes you see families make?
Oh, yeah. So we don't just draft documents. We do court work too.
Okay.
So I can tell you lots of stories about mistakes. Number one mistake is no planning.
Okay.
They put it off till tomorrow. Well, now we're incapacitated or worse. I can't put the genie back in the bottle, right? It is what it is. Oftentimes we're in court getting guardianship, conservatorship over an incapacitated adult, or people you never would have imagined who are going to inherit will inherit because our legislature says who inherits your assets if you don't have a will or a trust in place during your lifetime.
And we've been hearing that a lot with some of the celebrities out there too, right?
Yep. Yeah. DIY plans, please, people, do not go online and download something. Don't work with somebody who's not a lawyer with significant experience. These are legal documents. They are very technical. And the problem is when you DIY it or you don't work with experienced counsel, you're not going to know you have a problem until it's too late.
And it might just be one sentence or one word that could cause that issue.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Comma's in the wrong spot. I've litigated that. I had a will one time. It was a DIY job and The percentages that were being left to people did not add to 100%.
Oh, geez.
I've had another one where charities were involved, but nobody could figure out the exact charity because they didn't use the EIN, a correct name, or an address.
So what happens? Does it go to the state? Or
so in that case, we went to court, petition for instruction, and thankfully, the person who had passed had made lifetime gifts to a charity with very similarly named.
Okay.
So we went to court and got a court order adding that charity in, confirming them as the intended beneficiary.
Okay.
Absent that, yeah. So you see all kinds of problems.
Oh my gosh. Oh
yeah.
My gosh. Oh my gosh.
So no plan, DIY plan, outdated plan. Yeah. They're old. 20-year-old plan, everybody named has died, is not able to serve. We have vacancies in the personal representative or the agent or the trustee role. And now we have to go to court to get those vacancies filled.
Right. And
Yeah.
no plan means probate. And what does probate mean
Yeah,
exactly? What is
so
the definition of probate?
That's a great question. So people don't even really understand what probate is. They just know they don't want it, right? You just know it's bad.
Right.
You wouldn't be wrong. So probate is a division of the court, and that's the division of the court that deals with handling the estates after somebody dies. And so in Arizona, but every state has rules. It just might be different from state to state. In Arizona, if somebody passes away and they have more than $300,000 of equity in real estate or $200,000 in other kinds of assets in their name alone.
Okay.
There's no beneficiary. There's no surviving joint owner. It wasn't in a trust. It's just in the name of the person who died.
Mm-hmm.
That is a, quote, estate asset.
Okay.
It's what I think of as the leftovers.
And that's 300,000.
300,000 equity in real estate.
Okay.
200,000 combined other assets. So
Okay.
brokerage, checking, savings, cars
Gotcha.
are typical
Okay.
examples.
Okay.
If we have estate assets at or over those thresholds, I don't have any other tools in my toolkit. We have to go to the probate court, get the personal representative appointed by the court. If there's a will, the will admitted to the court as the last will and testament of the decedent, and then the personal representative takes what's called letters.
Okay.
That's a document the court issues, your letters of appointment. And then they can start handling the estate. What people don't realize is they think if I have a will, I'm not going to go through probate. And
Right.
that's not true.
It's true. That's what people think.
No,
And that's why
it's
we're out here educating.
Everybody thinks that. If you have a will, all that does is say who you nominate to handle the estate and how do you want your estate distributed, which are two great things. But the person you name has no legal authority to do the job until they submit the will to the court and they get letters issued. So with a will, if we have assets in the estate, meaning not everything is in a trust
Mhm,
or passed through joint ownership, we're going to have probate with a will. Trusts avoid probate.
Gotcha.
That's why most people want trusts.
Right.
Right?
But the big thing is some attorneys don't fund the trust.
Yeah.
So that's an education.
That's not us. That should go on the list of probably the fifth biggest mistake I see people make.
Okay. Yes.
When you have a trust, it has to be, quote, funded. Using my legal air quotes here,
Yes.
Cheryl. It has to be funded. That's just a term of art, meaning taking your assets that you own individually and transferring the ownership during your lifetime to the trust, or naming the trust as the beneficiary on, let's say, a life insurance account. So the funds post-death go into the trust for the trustee to collect, manage. So the job of the trustee is the exact same job as the personal representative under the will.
Okay.
They're going to marshal the assets, pay the debts, and then distribute whatever is remaining pursuant to the terms of the trust. So a trust sounds like a will
Right.
after somebody passes away, but it avoids probate because trust law already gives the authority to the trustee you name to do the job.
Okay.
Whereas a will, you name somebody, but they don't have legal authority until the court grants them the legal authority.
And that could take time, right?
Oh, it all takes
Right.
time
Yeah.
going to court. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking about, it was a sad story, but I was thinking about somebody who during COVID, he didn't know if he was going to come out of the hospital, and he hand wrote
Yeah.
a will.
Holographic
yeah.
wills are not valid in every state, but they
Okay.
are valid in Arizona.
Okay.
I do not recommend them because that is
Right.
the definition of a DIY project.
Right. He didn't make it, unfortunately. So
yeah.
it was his next door neighbor that was taking care of his dog, and he wrote it out. And I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
it was so sad. So I don't even know what happened.
I have successfully probated a number of holographic wills. The cutest one I ever did, Cheryl, you'll die,
What?
on note paper about this big with little pink hearts at the top.
Okay.
lady wrote her will on her note
Little
paper.
scratch paper, yeah.
That's what the family found, and we successfully probated it. I
Wow.
do not recommend note paper as your holographic will.
I wonder if it was done like just a couple of weeks before something happened. You know what I mean? You just never know.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so many people assume their spouse or children can automatically step up. We've kind of touched on this. Unfortunately, that's often not true with legal documents. So that's why we're talking about powers of attorney.
Yeah.
So now I know there's 3 and we talked about medical, mental, and financial, but you can have different people in each capacity, right?
Yeah. And you may have different people in your family with different skill sets.
Okay.
You may want to name one child who has a medical background as your medical decision maker, and another child or person who has financial acumen to serve as agent under your financial power of attorney. You just have to recognize, when are they going to be acting? That means you're not able to handle financial or medical decisions. So these 2 people are going to have to coordinate and communicate very well together.
So is it better to have one person with all 3?
You know, I'm going to say it depends.
Okay.
It really depends on the people and the dynamics in your family.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes, people have family that they don't want for good reason.
Right.
And there are professionals that can serve, bank and trust companies, licensed fiduciaries.
Okay.
I have a lot of clients who might be older. Maybe they don't have children. They're like, well, all my siblings are older than me. All my friends are my same age. Who do I put? Or I don't want to, I don't want to put this responsibility on somebody else. And so there are professionals.
Okay.
Yeah. But those are all things that the lawyer helps the family work through to decide who's going to be best in which roles and how is it all going to coordinate together.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm just thinking of some dynamics of some clients that I've had.
Yeah.
That, there was some head button. And I was just like, oh my gosh, you guys have to work this out,
Yeah. And the big issue is if there's no durable financial power of attorney and the person becomes unable to handle financial matters, and now they lack capacity to put a power of attorney in place, no one, not even a spouse or somebody related to you by blood or marriage, gets to handle your financial matters just because they're related to you. So the only tool in my legal toolbox is to go to court and get conservatorship. And it can all be avoided with just a simple power of attorney. Medical decision making, we do have a default law that says who gets to make your medical decisions, but it may not be the people you want.
Right.
It's the people our legislature picked.
Okay.
Right.
And they're not going to know your wishes.
They may or may not.
Right.
But they're not going to be in writing. And so if there's a dispute, then we could end up in court.
Oh my gosh.
Litigating end of life decisions. Unfortunately, I have had to do that. It's very, very sad.
Well, I have a family friend that's going through some challenges. She fell, then she had a couple days later cardiac arrest. And then I've been in the waiting room with the family and we're talking. I'm like, do you have this in place? Do you have this in place? Your POAs, your DNRs? And they're like, yeah, now we got to get it out and read it. Because we need to know, God forbid, something happens. Everything's good right now, but we got to know what to do, right?
Yeah.
And help the spouse out with what's going on. So it's just it's a hard thing. But when people do this ahead of time, then they're mentally prepared.
They feel
later
so much better.
And they're not making decisions on the fly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then later on regretting and like, why did I do that? I have to say my mom is so prepared.
You're lucky.
I am, but I don't know if she did a DIY, but she has everything in place. I probably should have you look at it, but she has everything in place. And so she even knows the song that she wants at her funeral.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm just going to have to just get the people there and then it's all good,
Yeah.
But we don't want mom going anywhere anytime soon.
I mean, estate planning really is a gift to those you care about.
Yes.
People think it's about them, which it is. To some degree, it's control. What are your wishes? What do you see for yourself if you need care, etc. And you can build all of that into an estate plan. But at the end of the day, it really is a gift for those you care most about, because those are the people that are going to step up and be there for you when you need an advocate, when you need a decision maker, when you need helpers. And this gives them the legal authority to fulfill those roles.
Yes. And to that point, I'm thinking about somebody, a family member, friend who passed during COVID. And here it is 5 and 6 years later, and they're still dealing with some of the financial ramifications from back then because they didn't have these things in place.
Yeah. takes a lot longer when you're not organized and you don't have the right legal documents. So it takes more time, more money, more drama, more potential for family conflict.
Well, and it's a big responsibility to be a POA, and there's a lot to it. And people are like, I want to be the POA. I want to be the POA. But then they're like, oh my gosh, why do I want to do this?
I was just going to say that. So we draft documents. I also represent the people in fulfilling those fiduciary roles, the trustee, the agent under POA. And it's so funny. It's like the birth order thing. It's always the oldest child thinks that's the seat of honor and they should be the person named to be mom and dad's helper. And then they get into that role and they're like, did mom and dad like me? Right. This is really hard.
Right.
It's, it can be like a second full-time job.
100%
for people.
100%. That's as I meet with people and I see the dynamics, I'm like going, that is like a full-time job.
Yeah.
Just taking over stuff. Okay. So let's see here. Let's shift to healthcare power of attorneys. So I think we've talked about this. So having one clear decision maker. Let's see what else I got here because I got my notes here. So I'm going to look at that. Well, let's see. So, we've talked about healthcare power. Is there anything else you want to add on the healthcare, mental, or?
The only thing people don't really think about is a HIPAA release.
Okay.
So your doctor isn't allowed to share your private medical information with anybody unless in writing you authorize the release.
Right.
So your agent under your healthcare power of attorney can get information, but only once you're incapacitated. Okay. So, you have this in between, right? Mom might be in the hospital. You want to talk to the nurse's station. You want to talk to the doctor. She may or may not be able to make her own decisions, but you start working by, I'll say, family committee.
Okay.
So we always do HIPAA releases that are a global release that work everywhere. Because if you've signed the medical release at your primary care doctor's office, that works for that practice, but it doesn't work at the surgery center, the pharmacy, or the hospital.
Okay. Go ahead.
So that's just a practical, real world tip.
Okay. And then I just want to get some clarity on this. So I understand like when you go into a hospital, they have their POA.
Yeah.
But then you have your own. And I've been hearing that it's better to bring your own POA in instead of using the hospital's POA. And so what is the reason for that?
Yeah. You want to use your own POA because that's going to be a broader power of attorney. It probably has more language in it related to certain wishes for medical treatment than just the basic hospital POA.
Okay.
Also, I find when people are in the hospital, they're like, oh yeah, this person drove me. I'll just put their name in. Well, maybe that isn't the same person.
Right.
That's named in your documents.
Oh, right.
And so now you have conflicting documents and you have conflicting expectations of family.
Right.
So I think it's always better to bring in the documents that you did ahead of time when you had time and thoughtful consideration.
Yeah.
And you put those in place.
Because people don't think about when they're going in for a procedure, God forbid something happens, to bring the POA.
Yep, exactly. Something, and I don't know if you're aware of it, Arizona has a free service. It's a medical directives registry called the Arizona Healthcare Directives Registry.
Okay.
People can just Google it.
Okay.
And you can upload your healthcare power of attorney and your living will. And then you end up getting your registration agreement card that has your login and credentials.
Okay.
So now you're going to a surgery center. You have a new doctor. They ask you to bring copies of your documents. You don't have to find them who knows where in the house.
Right.
You could I tell my clients, cut out that card, laminate it, throw it in your wallet. Now you just give that card to anybody who needs it. If you are the spouse for somebody, make a copy of their card. If you are the adult child for your parent and you're the person for your parents, make a copy of their card, keep it in your wallet. So in essence, you always have it on you.
No, and that's good because...
And it's free.
No, that's awesome.
Even
I wish
better.
I would have known that because when my dad was going through all this, he's passed, but they're like, I go, oh, you have the POA on file, but I didn't know which one, and how long it had been and all the stuff. So yes, that's so important. So important.
Yeah.
Okay.
Practical tips.
Yes. Good. Okay. So we're going to move on. How is an elder law attorney different from a traditional estate planning attorney?
Yeah. So I refer to elder law as estate planning plus.
Okay.
So we elder law attorneys, we do everything an estate planning attorney does. We draft all these documents we've talked about. If somebody passes away, we handle the probate or the post-death trust administration. That's the general focus of an estate planning attorney. But what elder law does is we look at the decades before our client passes.
Okay.
If they need care, where is that care? What does their insurance cover? Are they on public benefits? Do they get Medicare, Social Security? Do they need Medicaid to pay for long-term care? If they need assisted living, memory care, can they afford it? Or are they going to need to get onto Altex, Arizona Long-Term Care System?
Right.
And we help them preserve their assets. We also work with the family members. As I mentioned, we represent the spouse, the child, the friend who is in the role of taking care of the vulnerable adult or the now incapacitated adult. So I always like to say we're in the trenches in the real world working with these actual documents.
Wow.
So, if we need guardianship, we can go to court, get guardianship, conservatorship, lots of things an elder law attorney does that helps people with all the legal issues that happen with the aging process.
The next stage of life.
Right. Before we get to a passing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. So and that just shows how much more, I feel I'm not going to take any away from estate planning attorneys, but you just take that next step and go to the next phase. Yeah,
I always joke. It's like, listen, I went to law school 30 years ago, but I feel like a social worker a lot of the day right. Because, I may be working with a client and they're house rich, cash poor.
Yep.
They don't want to leave their home. They're starting to have some care needs or just some general living expenses. I might be the first one that's ever said, hey, I think a reverse mortgage is something you should learn about and consider.
Exactly.
Or I can refer you to home health or you need a doctor referral or a CPA referral. Sometimes we're just coordinating. Yeah.
And do you work helping. A lot with financial advisors too? On that too as well. And that's the other thing is that, you said house rich and cash poor because I have some people, I have a 93-year-old, that he wants to stay in his home. He wants to stay in his home. And so he's in a free and clear house. And so we're able to take that money out and get in-home health care for them until he has to go into. Yeah.
And sometimes in those cases, we'll get Altex, Arizona's Medicaid, to provide a bulk of the care.
Okay.
And then we'll use the reverse mortgage to pay for the extra hours to stretch those house dollars farther.
Yeah.
There's lots we can do in elder law to help families navigate the aging process. How are we going to finance care?
Right.
Who's going to take over? What does the whole support system look like for this person? And how do we put the right legal documents in place so that we're not going to end up in court trying to support this person?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or going into conservatorship.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Okay. So we're going to wrap up here. Is there any last ideas or thoughts that you want to leave our listeners today?
If nothing else that you take away, just make sure you have a really good, robust estate plan, and then don't let it just collect dust, right? Every 5 to 6 years, you should be pulling it out, taking a look, getting a review.
Yes.
It's worth just spending a little bit of time to have that peace of mind and know that's really just a gift to yourself and to those you care about.
Absolutely. So how can people reach out to your office so that way they can talk to you?
Yeah. So website is a great way. We've got all kinds of resources on the website. It's Bivens Law, BIVENSLAW.com.
Okay.
It's probably the best way.
Okay.
Email info@bivenslaw.com.
Okay,
Phone number 480-922-1010.
Okay. And we'll put that in the show notes, of course. So Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing your expertise today. These conversations are truly changing lives. Like we said, we don't want your hair on fire. We want to be proactive because the more proactive everyone is, it just makes everyone's life easier because we're heading into a silver tsunami. Maybe we're in the silver tsunami. I don't know, but we just need to be, just be kind to our family and not leave them in chaos and just be proactive. So you've listened to Reverse Mortgage and Beyond. I'm Cheryl Scheidell with Barrett Financial Group. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe below. Again, this is Cheryl Scheidell, NMLS number 886425 with Barrett Financial, an equal housing lender. Please remember that loan programs, rates, and eligibility guidelines are subject to change and may vary based on individual circumstances. Nothing discussed in this episode constitute a loan offer or credit decision. Any examples or scenarios shared are strictly for illustrative purposes. All loans are subject to credit approval and underwriting conditions.